think it's really beautiful, the conversations I've heard at lunch, and I always think it's the people who make these events, and the team that Karen's pulled together here is just a catalyst. But all the conversations I've heard are all really exciting and really inspirational, and I just want us all to give us a big round of applause for ourselves. And actually, that's how I feel. The conversations have been inspirational, and hopefully, because Karen's going to do a lot more of these roadshows around the country, and no pressure, but everyone here today, if you could just take away and just, David talked about the power of question. When you're with your friends, your family, different people, acquaintances. I mean, I've kind of red pilled my delivery driver, who's delivered me a parcel, and I've talked about stuff. But those little conversations and those little questions and the seeding of the idea, just seeding the idea, and then we're going, what did he say? What was all that? What chemtrails? What? Whatever. But I just think that the conversations are really important, and the ripples that we're creating are really powerful. Because there's 80, 90 people here. We're going to affect thousands of people over the next few months. So I just wanted to say that that's what we're doing, and that's why Karen put this together. So, has anybody had any questions that they'd like to ask during the lunch?
Just going to add to that. Part of the community
Stand up, please. Stand up.
We're a group within our community. They go out every Saturday through the Telegram group. They discuss which town they're going to go to. So they've been as far away as Ramsgate and Margate. We're based in South East Kent. And they'll go to Dover, they'll go to Ashford, they'll go to Canterbury, and they give out the white paper. And the way they do that is in a group of up to 30 people, we'll go with 2,000 white papers, because we all chip into a fund. The second Sunday of every month we have a gathering, we invite speakers all across the board, and 70 to 100 people will turn up, and then we have a couple of people speaking, much like this, except it's directed, and people get to ask questions, and we build that network. They go out every Saturday from, I'm going to guess now, I think it's 12 to 2, 12 to 2.
I'm part of it, 12 to 2.
Yeah, 12 to 2, and they hand out, they go to a set of traffic lights where the drivers there will have to stop at the traffic lights because that's an easy catch. Now, a year ago, 2 years ago, even when I did one 2 years ago, you get a lot of people being quite abusive, a lot of hand signals, not the ones you want. And now, what I'm hearing, anecdotally from everybody who does that, is it's the complete opposite. The hand signals are a rarity, the abuse is a rarity, and most people are beeping, and they're stopping and winding their windows, and they're getting copies of the paper. And then one of the last ones they did, it's anywhere between 1,700 and 2,000 papers go out in 2 hours.
Yeah.
So that's what's possible. You can do that too.
I can confirm that I was there, so I have actually seen it as well.
Right. And just interrupting Peter, I'm actually a regular with the Camp Resistance, and it's the most joyful thing that I do in terms of freedom activity. I mean, I do my talks, I do my courses, but getting out to where the people need the information, it feels like evangelical missionary work. And you don't have to say a word, they'll take it off you. Now, they're winding the window down with no prompting and grabbing it off us. So the tide has turned.
Absolutely.
And if you want to be affirmed, this is on a personal individual level, if you want to feel better about yourself, just do that. Get out there, and Pete's right, the secret of the Camp Resistance is we don't walk the streets, we get out to where the traffic is slow or stopped, and then you've got a captive audience. And then if there's a driver by himself, he doesn't feel, or she doesn't feel embarrassed to take it, not that they are anymore, but it's much easier. On the streets it's not so easy, but in a car where they can put the window back up quickly, drive off, it's so much easier. And knocking out anywhere between 1,000 and 2,000 in 2 hours is just amazing. And I think we're going to hit 3,000 soon.
We've missed a point there, David.
Yeah.
It's the yellow boards, they're doing them together, so the yellow boards
and
the light paper together.
It's only 25 quid, 10 quid for 25, because I get 25 a month from taking around with my friends.
Yeah.
So that's affordable.
But I would urge you, as following on what Pete's saying, to organise into a form of the equivalent of, I mean, we're county-wide. I don't know, so what's this, Somerset, is it? Yeah. So Somerset, I know you've probably got further to travel, but you could split Somerset up into areas, but get on it, guys. It's the swiftest route to spreading the truth. Because on Telegram, which is the only platform we've got now, we're in a closed circuit, we're in a loop, we're in an echo chamber. So the only way to burst through that chamber is to get out with the light paper.
Can I just say something?
Signal as well.
Yeah, Signal's okay, but it's not as good as Telegram.
There's a dedicated group of individuals who've been giving out the light paper here in Glastonbury for however long it's been. About every single copy started. But what has happened here in Glastonbury, there has been a kickback, a certain faction of people who have actually started a campaign to try and have the light paper forbidden by the council to be distributed in this town. They even had a whole day seminar or something 2-3 weeks ago, and yeah, there's a real sort of division between people developing in the town. I'm hoping that it doesn't become.
That is linked with Stroud as well.
Yes, it's definitely linked to Stroud. So, you know, unfortunately, in Glastonbury here, these wonderful individuals are still giving it out, wonderful people, and they are resisting, and there's still masses of support. So you might get some kickback, you might get the proverbial whatever, but when they start to try and take it to the council to have it banned or made illegal or whatever they're trying to do, whatever legal is, of course, that's a whole other story.
But can I just say something?
Yeah.
It came from the council.
It came from the council.
Yeah, because when Lily and I did this thing in Glastonbury in July, I read the minutes of the meeting and it said to form a working group to talk about the light. So it's come from the council.
Yeah, there are individuals within shops and things here in the town who happen to be.
Can I just say that in the next edition of the light paper, we've done a counter hit piece to the Tom Ball hit piece on Universal Kids in Greater Manchester, which is a home education hub type. So what I mean by that is that the light paper is starting to get more proactive in its defence of its own territory and its defence of our territory. So it's not just dry alternative information about what's really going on. It's now becoming more, proactive. So celebrate the fact that they're coming for you, because who are these morons? Yeah. Absolutely, it means that what you're doing is right. The very fact that they're coming is right, and strengthen the numbers. Just and smile at them. The secret is to stay calm, peaceful, and know that they're only trying to disrupt you because they're in falsehood. Yeah. Fear and panic. Fear and panic. Oh my God. Fear and panic.
So, chap here.
Sorry, my mum always told me not to interrupt.
No, that's fine. This chap here hands out the light paper.
Oh, brilliant.
Let's hear the story.
A good way of distributing the light paper, if you haven't got as many as 2,000, well done for that, is to go into your local news agents and co-ops and things like that, especially on a weekend, go to the newspapers and slip them in Times, Telegraph, as some people might think there's actual supplements. The advantage of that is they can take it home and read it in the privacy of their own home.
With the metro, yeah.
I see that as the metro, all over London, so I just dump a load of those on the top.
Okay, so does anybody have any thoughts, any questions they'd like to start off before I get into these questions?
I have another question
Yeah.
on behalf of somebody else. They are tottering with their licence. They've got so many points that they only kept their licence because of special needs. So that's because they have a son they have to go and visit, and now they're facing a speeding fine for which they did a conditional acceptance, 3 conditional acceptance letters, allegedly gay style. So they're due in court in a couple of, just under 2 weeks, I think it is. Wanted to ask any advice about how to go about. Should they make an affidavit to show that they weren't in that place?
Okay, so I personally don't like the 3-letter process, but I'll give you what I might do if I was to do it. so I apologise for not answering your question directly, but it does concern this area of the speeding offence. So let's say if you were caught speeding, and their own legislation says that they must notify you within 14 days. That letter comes through, you check it out, you know what it is, hopefully. You might wish to wait to the 13th day at 5 p.m. and then send it back through the post, unknown return to sender. And what that does is that breaks their notice of 14 days, and if they take it any further, you've got something to go to court with, that they didn't notify the driver within 14 days. And then you can go to court and make a statutory declaration to state that you were not notified within the 14 days.
Yeah, I got one yesterday actually. I got one of those speeding fines yesterday. I was going out of the village, going up a hill, and they zapped me because I put my foot down to go up, as they do. So I got it yesterday. Unfortunately, I opened it. Can I reseal it and say I've opened it now?
Could I just first also say, I should have said before this, is that with great knowledge comes great responsibility. So this isn't about taking the piss. This is about you being your own management system. That's what I want to say. So with regards to that, yeah, of course you can send it back, return to sender address you will recognise. Because the word deliver or receive means that you've got it and you're accepting it, you're keeping hold of it.
Claiming it.
Do you wish to keep hold of it?
No, I don't want
Okay, so you might want to do what I've just
Can you just
described.
rip it up?
You can say opened in error.
Yeah.
You can just put opened in error.
Well, you could say that, but the more that you put on that envelope, the bigger the target that you're going to make yourself. If you write umpteen things about what it is that you don't wish to do, just simply as though somebody from the post office has found this letter and they're going to return it back to the sender. Be the grey man or the grey woman. Don't draw attention to yourself. Be discreet. Unknown, return to sender. If you want to write an essay about it, you're going to put an arrow on the back. So unknown, return to sender. All words to that effect, but just keep it simple as though someone from the post office has found this letter.
One of my students has not even gone that far. He just operates total disengagement, and he's got about 900 letters at the moment for the last 2 or 3 years, and he keeps checking his credit rating, his driver's license score, nothing. Yeah. Now, I don't personally think that total disengagement works for everyone. It certainly worked for him. But it's another option. But in view of what Dean has just said, that sounds like your best bet is to play their game to some extent, send it back so that they run out of their notice period expiring. So yeah. But just be aware that for some people, total disengagement does work. That's all.
So on the back of that, one of the questions is ULEZ lawful? Can you appeal against ULEZ? Or can?
It's not lawful.
Is anybody lawful? Go on, Martin.
Right. So it's all being sent back. 60% apparently are not paying.
1 million people have not paid the ULEZ fine. 1 million.
Go on, Martin.
There's another story. They don't give a shit about the law, is what the money, right?
Yeah.
So, but
Can't hear you.
So I drive a fabulous 23-year-old Ford Escort van, and because it's a van, when I go up to like Newcastle, they wanted to charge me money, whereas if it was a Ford Escort saloon, they wouldn't, right? But the thing is, in London, they want to charge me £112.50 a day for LEZ plus ULEZ. Now, this sets me up for a great situation. It's so obviously ridiculous and inequitable. So I get to play games, right, with them. So I went to the whole traffic penalty tribunal thing. I point out it's inequitable, that they've got me there on fraud, all the usual stuff. It's unconstitutional. Anyway, I got a judgment from them that said we have no room to consider whether it's constitutional or criminal. Thank you so much for putting in writing that you're criminals and treasonous. Love that. Go to the chief adjudicator. Are you sure you want to put in writing that you're criminals and treasonous? Yeah, we're really good at what we do. Oh, thank you. You do cease and desist, so they would say, well, you can't enforce this because you got it through fraud. They don't care, right? What I did do with TfL was I just wrote back and said, if you are claiming that I am, you have jurisdiction over me because I'm practicing commerce, show me. If you're claiming jurisdiction over private travel, please give evidence. Silence, yeah? As well as notice of fraud, criminal fraud. So they're picking off the low-hanging fruit. If you become a nuisance enough, you've got the right incantations, so they go away. What I'm also hearing is that people like Mark Steele and the like are going to, there's a whole movement to deal with the cameras because they've got all these LIDAR, whatever in them, no safety case, and you can commit a crime in order to stop a bigger crime. So just taking the cameras down, they can't prosecute you, and the people who have taken them down are not being prosecuted because they know that it's going to go nowhere. So I think it's all done. It's all finished.
Somebody said to me earlier that bring back boxes of the funds.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, they've got boxes, that's cool.
Another question we've got here is, can someone be forced to have a smart meter in their home? Can someone be forced to have a smart meter in their home?
No.
I've rejected one of them. It's my verbal atonement. So what I did was, I had a meter, an electric meter, it was a legacy meter, and I had a lightning strike nearby. I didn't actually hit my building or anything, but the energy of that was quite significant. It blew out the reader on the meter, so I can't read the meter anyway. So I told them that, and they said, oh, we can put you in a smart meter. I said, no thanks, I don't want a smart meter. Oh, why is that? Basically, it radiates you, it pulses the radiation all the time. I don't want to be radiated, I don't want to get my health damaged as a result of that. And they then said, oh, that's a myth. And I said, no, it's not, because I watched a video from a guy who was working in a smart meter factory and showed the radiation from them, and also the health effects from it. So, no, we're not having one. And so you can provide me a legacy meter instead. He said, well, we haven't got any legacy meters. Well, I said, that's your problem then, because I'm not having a smart meter. I haven't, I don't pay anything from it. Yeah, it's got a blank screen.
And again, you can use the power of the question to highlight the insanity of their request or offer.
Yeah.
Richard, can they force fit a jacuzzi?
Yeah.
I mean, you see, that's the key. You would want one. You would want one, and that's the key. It's whatever you want goes. Whatever you want and you say goes. End of. It's not even a discussion point. It's your home. It's your home. There's no discussion here.
Right, so how do you stop them charging you more and not giving you the discounts that you would get if you had a smart meter?
Yeah,
Easy.
It's
Easy. You pay by standing order and you pick the amount that you think is reasonable. That's end of it. Okay, so cancel the direct debit. Okay, cancel the direct debit because the direct debit gives them power over your bank account. Right, and then whether you pay or not is another day's work. I won't go down that for now. So to stay in honour, you make some kind of payment, but you decide, you evaluate what you can afford, what you think it's worth. All right, and that will keeps you in honour. They can't do anything, nothing. End on.
What if you're in rental property and
It's your
the
home.
meters are on the outside of the building?
Well, that makes you technically vulnerable because they don't have to break in. But you put a box on and padlock it. So they've got a notice. Anyone found interfering with this private property shall be prosecuted for criminal damage, fraud, or whatever.
Yes, so I've been dealing with a couple of friends who've had all kinds of problems. At the end of the day, that whole billing industry, it's not an energy industry, It's actually
It's a
a
business.
it's a loan payment.
It's a credit note.
It's all gangsters. It's gangsterism. So can they come and force install it? Of course they can. They're gangsters. They could break down your door and install one if they really want to. They're gangsters. They don't give a shit about the law. They give a shit about warrants and compliance. There's a colour of law they use as a figure. That my mate, they came along and just hacked up his power supply. They hacked the earth, and you got electric shocks to put plugged the generator in. They hacked up the earth as well. And the courts have done nothing about it. So that's just to punish them. The gangsters. Right? But so you can come from that place. They don't give a crap about the law.
And they're relying on you to be, or at least to want to be, a good citizen.
Oh, yeah.
But it's good citizens that go off to war and get killed, and it's good citizens that get fleeced their entire lives. And somebody hinted at before, the more money you spend on the gangsters, that's less money for yourself and your loved ones. And less of a life. It's less of a life. Claiming back your life is about taking control and sovereignty over what you spend your hard-earned income on. So that's the bigger picture. It's not just about defying these gangsters. It's not just about that. It's about taking back control, generally.
If you have a meter already in the house, how can that be removed? The smart meters, or can it be removed? You can put them on notice to tell them to remove it.
Can you speak up?
You can put them on notice and ask them to remove the smart meter within a certain period of time. And then you perhaps, I don't know, you might have a better idea, I've done that. I followed it up with the 3 notice process, ending in the default being the 3rd notice. And then if they don't remove it, then you've told them that you're going to remove it yourself, and you have a professional to come and fit and get your safety certificate and all that sorted out.
I'll tell you what I did. I did this in 2021, I think. I wrote a notice. You don't write letters. Stop writing letters. Letters aren't of any value whatsoever because it's a complaint or it's a procedure. It's a letter. The only lawful thing you have as a document that you can use, because everywhere is bankrupt, is notice. They give you a parking charge notice. They were giving you a council tax notice. They've now turned it into a council tax bill. But it's not a bill because it doesn't meet the Bills of Exchange Act 1882. It's a statement. Right? So you've got to get clear about a couple of things. So what I did was I wrote a notice to them saying, this is the details of my electric. I had dual fuel, VDF. It's my gas meter number. This is my electric meter number. These are the numbers on them. I'd like to cancel my contract. Right? I'm terminating, we're not asking you, I'm terminating my contract. These are the numbers. Please send me a final bill. Right? And sent it off. They call you up. That's one of the first. Oh, are you moving? It's none of your business. It's none of your business. Bye. They don't have to talk to you. They have a conversation with you. You don't even have to tell them that. Who's this? EDF. Okay, bye. I'm not having a conversation with you. I'm not going to have any kind of contact with you. I'm not giving joinder. So I sent that. They did send me a bill, which came with the gyro slip on the bottom. Is anybody here old enough to be on the dole and to remember getting a gyro in the post?
Yeah, absolutely.
And did you go to the post office with your gyro, sign it, give it to the post office clerk, who then gave you money? Because it was a credit note. Right. So they've just sent you a credit note. I'm not going to tell you that because you've forgotten or you don't know because you're too young. So what you do is you fill that in, you write accepted for value, return for value. I even put my national insurance number on it because I didn't know any better at the time. I thought, well, it's SDKV Trust, maybe it exists, something like that. And I put the amount, right, and I put my signature, it's endorsed. And I sent it back as final payment. Right. They didn't accept it, but they didn't send it back either, which means they accepted it. Right? They've securitized it, fractionalized it, and whatever they do with it. Right. Over a period, it was council tax at exactly the same time. Over a period of the next 2 years, I ended up with phone calls to my landline, which they've also ended up figuring out as well, because I've got the internet. They text me, they call me, and it's all from, starts off with debt collection agencies. So 3 different debt collection agencies, right, for 3 different things. And I just didn't think, as soon as they call, who are you? Oh, I'm at Marston's, or with this, or with that, bye. Don't have a conversation, block the number. Send you an email, block the email. Send you a text, block the text. All perfectly possible. So then they write to you, I don't open anything. It's not addressed to me. Who's that fiction? It's not me. False details, offer to contract, no, back in the post. So I kept sending it all back, and guess what happened? Nothing. They kept saying EDF changed it from the occupier, eventually they changed it to the resident, and then they changed it to the homeowner, and then all these are different titles to try and get joinder with you. Not me, back in the post.
Why send them back though? Why not?
Because it's tacit agreement if you don't. I mean, but that's, you know,
Can't be
for me it's
tacit
just, I've made an offer. It's not me. Back it goes, because it's been sent to this false address. But it's just me, because it's a spiritual thing, right, for me. It's like, I'm not going to have that in my, I'm not going to let that encroach on me. I'm not going to pay any attention. Not
Just
going
one second. In that system, received means accepted. So if he doesn't send it back, it's been received.
Right.
And if it's been received, it's been accepted. I think Lord Denning, about 40 years ago, said, received is accepted.
But if it's to the occupier,
Yeah,
then
it
you
isn't.
wouldn't accept it or reject it.
Well, there's no such thing as the occupier.
Exactly.
They
So
can't.
why-
Nobody ever made a legal claim against the occupier.
So can you just, because that's all I've been doing, is ignoring occupier.
Oh, yeah, no, you're good to go.
So I don't need to send that
You're good
back.
to go.
There's a deeper point that's emerging here. So my mate, who did the same thing, right? That he got his power supply cut off in half. Andrew, yeah. Right. It's like anyway. But the real issue is that when you stand on that, and you do the right thing. Yeah, is you can't control how they respond. Right? So you have to be willing to be persecuted. Right. And this is where it goes into Christian theology. You to deal with the Romans, you can choose to be in their world but not of their world, and they may or may not choose to persecute you, and even if you play along with their world, they may not persecute you anyway because they feel like it. You can't control that. You've got to be ready to accept as a gift from them whatever comes back. And my experience is the more you have communities like this, you can hold you both practically and emotionally to that experience, the better it gets.
And
I couldn't have done the course stuff without all the mates who turn up and or console me afterwards, and it's because it jangles you,
It does. And they're persecuting you not because you're wrong, it's because you're right. But the thing is that you went to school, and schooling is a process of making right young people feel wrong. And so that wrong feeling you take into adulthood, and it's triggered by the agents. It's so evilly clever. You got to take your hat off, except people and the rest of them.
Just don't tell people.
Right, but they've joined all the dots. If we can make them feel guilty and full of shame through schooling, then later on in life they will want to avoid all that pain that we're going to inflict on them. Right? It's all fits together. So,
what we're alluding to is the spiritual war that's underneath all this, which is about the right time of day to get to that bit, right? It's a spiritual war. They're trying to force you to go into their satanic spirit of false logic, false morality. What I've personally found is that this whole thing hinges on grace. Is the not just forgiveness or absolution or any of those things, is the people in the system who start to wake up. They can't imagine they could ever forgive themselves, as it were, for being duped into being agents of debt slavery. So they keep on going. And it's grace that allows them to step out of the system. Also, for you and I, when we go to court or don't go to court, we feel a bit guilty because we didn't get it right first time. I did the wrong 3 letters, and I put the wrong words in, and I screwed up, and didn't use the right colour pen, and oh man, is it actually offering yourself the grace, the self-compassion, to say, okay, I'm still figuring it out, I'm a bit of a numpty in this game, but a little step forward. Oops, I got a few things right and a few things wrong, and okay, I tried it. I live to tell the tale another day. So underneath all this is the spiritual aspect, and in the past I always thought it was lawful legal, in which form, but now I'm starting to see it through the spiritual lens. It's starting to become clearer as to how to engage with it. But that's a whole other topic.
I've got another way of dealing with it as well, and that's been confirmed by Adelman rights as well, because what you're actually dealing with is service corporations who are pretending to be our governments. Okay? So you have municipal entities within the court, and have a territorial entity within the court. So the all capital letters version, that when they write to you, using a presumed name which isn't yours, with a military title which you didn't ask for in the first place, is all fraud. So all capital letters, and usually all capital letters in titles, that's the municipal process. Okay? If you, so the mix of capital letters and lowercase, and usually a mix of capital letters and lowercase in the title, is the territorial version. Okay? So when you get an envelope like that, you want two diagonal red lines going from the bottom to the top right hand corner, but missing the envelope, okay? And that's in red ink, okay? That stands for the land jurisdiction, okay? So, returned service needs to be the first line. So you need enough space on this is the municipal one I'm talking about now, the all capital letters, okay? Returned service, because they're offering you a contract. So they're saying you're rejecting the service by saying return service. That's in their rule book, okay? And then you say no UCC contract trust. That's the second line. That's all in red writing, red ink. Okay? So when if you send that in the post, and even if you have opened it in error, you can write opened in error. Okay? Send it back in the post. That usually stops that point. Sometimes they might want to continue, in which case they'll use the territorial approach, which is a mix of capital letters and lowercase. That's the Admiralty side of it, so that's the military side of it. But don't be concerned about it, it's just another corporation, okay? So you would need slightly wider gap between the parallel lines, red parallel lines, so you have the same wording at the top. Return service in between the parallel lines, the first bit. Then under that, no UCC contract trust. And because it's the territorial, i.e. military bit, you write under that no territorial office, because you haven't got a military office there, have you? At your address, right? And no territorial officer. So you're not actually an officer of the military, are you? Right? So what this won't apply to is people who are in the military, people in special circumstances like that, or potentially connected with the secret services and stuff like that. Okay.
Is that the American market? Sorry guys.
Universal
Chat here.
What's the difference between municipal and territorial jurisdictions or whatever it is?
So it's to do with the corporations. One's a municipal corporation and one's a territorial corporation. Okay, one is so you're asking what the difference between municipal and territorial is. They're both corporations pretending to be our governments. This is happening across the whole planet. Okay, it's not just happening here. So the municipal process, that's a municipal corporation writing to you. Okay, and that's their courts. They both operate in the maritime and admiralty courts in the existing evil jurisdictions, right? Okay, they fake courts as well. Okay, so the territorial one, like I say, it's mixed capital letters and lowercase. So you have return service in red ink, no UCC contract trust, and to answer the question over there, what does UCC stand for? It means no universal. UCC is Universal Commercial Code. Yeah. Uniform Commercial Code. Yeah.
This lady here would like to.
That was the question.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Just to, because I've got the same information from Anna on rights that Stephen has, just to be a bit more specific. Territorial, Stephen will correct me if I'm wrong. Territorial was the British Empire. Was the British Crown. Territorial, the Crown. And municipal is the Pope, the Vatican. That's the essential thing. So the Roman Empire is municipal, and the British Empire is territorial.
It's Roman civil administration, right? And so it's called, all caps is called capitis diminutio maxima, right? And the one with the mixture of capitals and lower cases, capitis diminutio media, and all lowercase is you're not a slave. The first two, you're a slave under Roman law. If you use your lowercase name, your first name, your Christian name, remember you used to write Christian name, not your first name, your Christ name, your first name, you're free. But don't use your surname, because that's another title that they gave you in order to control you.
Can you still capitalise the first letter?
No.
No, nothing at all.
No, no capitals. All capitals is immediately given away.
I think it's called capital punishment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So use your first name only, any correspondence, and don't put anything else.
Okay.
That's
Go on,
it.
David. Go on, David.
Just one point on that. Obviously, I appreciate that, but just be careful with the words that you use. They use the word error. I personally wouldn't use the word error. I'd use the word mistake. Error could be liable. So just be careful not to use the word that you wouldn't want to use. The word error could be liable. The word mistake isn't.
So when you put on the, when you're signing off for errors and omissions,
You're admitting liability.
you say
Mistakes are not liable. Errors could be liable.
So you're saying return by mistake, or open by mistake?
Mistake would be a better word to use than error. Mistake means there's no liability.
That's interesting because mistake is one of your defences to, is one of the ways of avoiding a contract. So I like that idea that the Dean has just got. Yeah. Opened by mistake. Yeah, I like that. Taking that.
Why is that? Sorry, why is that? Why is error mean liable? Is it the meaning of the word?
Have you got a phone?
What?
Have you got a phone?
I've got a phone.
Look it up now and it'll tell you. The word liable, the definition.
Means lie.
It means some type of knowledge of doing the act, meaning you're going to be liable at some point.
Much like if you say sorry to someone, then you're implying that you're actually
if you did something wrong.
Apologising to a copper.
A mistake is very different. A mistake is like accidental, an act of God. It means there was zero intention.
Words and spells.
Go on, I've got a story. So this contracting stuff, it goes two ways. So I don't have a television in the same way as I don't have syphilis. Don't really like it. I don't have television for a very, very long time. But there's these people called TV licensing. And a bit like Bengal tiger licensing, I keep writing to them, have you got Bengal tiger? No, right? It's, but there's really rude letters. So I don't know why they keep picking on me. So I wrote back to them and said, I love you dearly, don't like your letters very much, but I have a media service, I'm a professional letter writer, and if you can send a letter to me for £2.50, I'll write you one for £500, and if you come to my house at all, it's £1,000. Yeah? So the other it's like it's and they immediately wrote back to me telling, it's like it's explaining their policy about how they feel very compelled to write letters, and I wrote a lovely response to them, thanking them and giving an analysis of what they'd said, and then closing an invoice for £750 to reflect my services. And they sent me another little thing in the post saying I claimed that I didn't need a TV licence. I had to go and rebut that because I've never said any statements about not needing a Bengal tiger licence. Because I haven't got Bengal tiger, I don't need to talk about it. So another £750. Then they wrote me another one. I mean, they just really, really like my service. And I wrote another letter back, talking about the nature of contracts and how that they were clearly a meeting of minds and they'd engaged the contract with me. And so on we went. It's like one of my readers even asked me to send us a signed copy of one of the letters so he could put it on his wall at home. So they ran out a bill of £3,000, which I'm sure you agree is very reasonable for someone of my skill level. And I took them to court for the unpaid bill, plus another £2,000 for harassment, breach of peace, etc. And here's the fun bit, right? So I sued TV licensing. Now, it turns out the BBC and the Capita are playing a shell game where all the revenue goes to the BBC and the liabilities go to Capita. They played their little dirty trick, which was to go to default judgment and then apply for set aside. And Capita turn up in the court and say, we're TV licensing, which is fraud. Right? So they're taking the trademark and they're presenting it even on their own website. At the bottom it says copyright TV licensing, but it's just a trademark. Trademarks can't own copyright. So they're presenting it as if it's a legal person in order to send liabilities one way and assets the other. So I've called them because they had no standing. Now the judge gave it to him initially. I think the judge was confused. He wasn't a dishonest man. He was just confused. Yeah, this is not normal. Anyway, I appealed it. The appeal judge was the same one as my mate Andrew, who'd been really screwing over in his other court. He's now probably not going to be a High Court judge because I got him to take recused off my case, and I'm sure everyone in the office saw all of the allegations of misconduct against him. So I now have a hearing on the 12th of July, 2 hours in Newcastle, to find out whether TV licensing is actually the BBC of Capita, which is their worst nightmare, because every single conviction for TV license evasion could be overturned on the basis of it all fraud.
I just want to go back to a point that Martin made earlier, and this is really, really important. Documenting everything you do and sharing it is one of the most important things we can do. It's super, super important, isn't it? And in fact, I think, Aaron, one of the reasons that Richard Vobes and you, I really vibed on this a lot, is that Rich was putting this out, and all these stories out to 10,000 people a week. And I think documenting it and exposing those stories out there is super, super important. We've got a woman in Bristol she's a lone wolf. There's a lot of, dare I say it amongst this group, but there's a lot of lone wolves in this movement. And that's great, that's what we want. This particular lady, she's been on her mission for a long time, and she went to court and she exposed the fraud. And a few people turned up, 15 people turned up, she exposed the fraud. That story never got out. Yeah? So it just died. The energy died. So I'm just going to say that exposing it, documenting what you're doing, and sharing it with other people is hugely, hugely important.
Can I make a suggestion? If you've got the wide scope of audience, is there opportunity on your website for other people to upload similar stories so they can get out to people as well? That's just a thought. You've obviously got an audience already.
Yeah, it's a tricky one.
We'll get back to it. Yeah, get back to something.
Yeah, it's
maybe that's something to think about, like a repository.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a good idea if the light paper was to do a column regularly on our victories. That might be.
Yeah, I think the light paper needs to move away from reporting on sort of alternative facts and condense that a bit, because most of us already know kind of what, there is a kind of a repetitive loop going on.
Yes,
it's more like a traditional newspaper at the Times. You've got a legal column.
Yes, notice column.
Notice
page.
I just wanted, as an aside, we spoke about Telegram and Signal. Gab is also completely ours to use. The guy, he's a Christian patriot in America. He owns his own servers, and Gab is a very, very safe place for people to have a presence. So I'm just saying that.
Can I just address a point that just tangle a couple of loose ends, well, one loose end. So we were saying before, total disengagement is an option, but it might scare you. If it does scare you, then adopt Martin's strategy, which is set out your terms and conditions for engagement.
Yeah.
That's all. So, but what we don't do is write back and apologise and say I need time to pay and that blah blah blah. No, you either totally disengage or you engage on your own terms and conditions, and you decide what they are, because you're a sovereign. Well, you're supposed to be a sovereign, aren't you? Yeah. Terms and conditions are yours. You set them out.
So just as another point, talking about notices and such like, and also we know the court system is totally corrupt. So they're not, in the same way we haven't got real governments, because they're service corporations pretending to be governments, we haven't got real courts. They're commercial courts and admin courts. So they're not real courts. So they're to make as much money out of people as possible. So what we're going to be doing with our process, which we'll talk about a bit later on, is to create our own courts, and I've already got domain names for that, which include lawful criminal courts. Okay, so because our courts are slightly different, they've got different titles about jural assemblies, about jury courts. Yeah, we're not listing that at the top. We'll be putting them under an obvious name for people who don't know about process at all, but they'll recognise the name lawful criminal courts, for example, right? So we can put companies or organisations or individuals on there. It's not live at the moment. We haven't built the website for it yet. But we can put notices on there of their crimes, yeah. And I believe there have been instances where people have been doing 5G in Glastonbury, and there's a lady here from Glastonbury who did it, so we talked about it as well, and exposed the guy who was doing that in Glastonbury and said, well, we're publishing this on our website, and basically the accountant wrote back saying they want to take it down and refused. But we can put these notices up there, and we can expose the criminals to the public so they can see it publicly. And then when we make the courts live, then we can bring these people to court. And if there's enough funding to actually fund enforcement and everything else, and build everything else we need.
It has much more impact than you ever imagine when you publicise
Yeah.
So in Palnaki, I wrote this article, The Pirates of Palnaki, about all of the land theft and the fake charity and the local council and Scottish water. Anyway, it went viral locally. I go to the nearest town and the cost customer talked to the lady behind the counter. Oh yeah, I wrote on that. The guys who are digging the port up and doing the workmen, they all read it. Yeah, it becomes common knowledge. But you have to get out there and do the noticing process, the publicity process. And so what you do in the light paper needs to also happen at a very local level with the local legal issues.
There's 2 points there. Firstly, they aren't places of justice, especially magistrates' courts. They are places for banking and commerce, and therefore, when you go in there, you have to be competent at doing your business. Just like if you were selling a car, somebody was negotiating with you, you've got to be able to negotiate your own terms and conditions. But interestingly, in terms of publicising the fraud that's going on in them, there's a guy called Julian Coulter. He does a lot of the numerology and the date codes. And he has a thing called self-publicised revoked consent notice. That at the top of it states, all media is controlled, so I'm publicising my own experience, or words to that effect. It's a 2-page black and white document. It's not fancy, but he says every time he goes into a court, or any time we go into a court, that we should print these, sign them, take 20, put them in your local area through random doors, like as if you were leaflet distributing, and then you put the same document into the court the day before, telling them that that's what you've done, and you also put 20 through doors and letterboxes and hand them out in the streets to people within the court, because then the content of the notice states, we know you're trying to depopulate us, we know that the 5G is killing us, we know that the vaccine was a depopulation intervention, you're using our names via our birth certificate to legally entrap us, these courts are fraudulent, the family courts are fraudulent, and you're stealing people's children. So all of a sudden, when you go into the court and you present them with one of these, they're going, oh, bloody hell, 40 new people now who weren't previously awake might know what's going on in these buildings. So that self-publicised revoked consent is very useful for just starting to plant a seed to germinate in people's minds that would not have otherwise known about this. There's nothing worse than shining the light on the dark for the dark to start kind of trying to behave themselves a little bit.
Just the example that I've heard of is 6,000 people in Portsmouth who formed a group of 6,000 people in Portsmouth. They've exposed the magistrates' courts as being a fraudulent entity it is. And they do these regular, they've got this massive banner that just says, the magistrate's court is fraudulent, and they just kind of stand outside the building, and everybody who walks in just sees it. But there's a big hive thing going on in Portsmouth, and there will be others as well.
On the other side, another thing is that David knows about it, I think Karen does too. There's a website called www.counciltaxfraud.co.uk, which is a 30-minute explainer video that just direct people to. Because when you start explaining to them the council tax is fraud,
after 4 hours they kind of glaze over. So that there's a lot of information on there, and it's coupled by another website called ctfc2024.org, where people like us who are awake about it can get t-shirts and yellow boards, and for every physical product that's purchased, it states, they get a load of leaflets as well to hand out to people. So the physical products say, council tax is fraud, don't pay it anymore, ask me how. And rather than explaining, you just give a leaflet to take them to the council tax fraud website, where they can begin their journey of understanding about the legal fraud that's going on.
I'm going to read out the question, but I'm just going to tell you my council tax story, because I've waited to do my council tax. And I've got a son, and I need to pick my up. And I chose to do, this current day I was tax rebellious, and I did a letter of conditional acceptance. And the first thing was, I said, who am I writing to? What's your name? And I went through about 12 different questions. And I got this letter back that said, oh, you're in the Freeman movement. It was literally that. And you know what I did? Nothing. Because I've sent them that letter, and these guys might disagree with me or not. But I'm done. I've sent them that letter, sent it recorded delivery. They've not answered any of my questions, and I'm done. I'm not paying council tax, and actually they haven't come after me.
Can I just say the same thing? It's literally just about 3 paragraphs. I did put Coverdale as well. And it just says something about freedom of the land again. We suggest you take legal advice. And we will not be engaging any further with you on this matter.
That's exactly what they said to me. They've got a protocol now, haven't they?
Yeah.
For people who do conditional
So when I went out to court, they said, oh, he's a free man of the land. I never mentioned it.
No, we didn't.
No, all I did was say, show me the liability order in previous time. Yeah, so...
There's, sorry to interrupt, but they've played yet another trick on us. Free man is not the same as free man. When they use the one word, freeman, that's an ancient term which doesn't apply to us, right? We're not free men or free women. We're free space men and free space women. So you can write back saying, do you mean, when you say free man, do you mean free man? Yeah? So you just catch them out with the trick. They won't know that they're playing the trick, but it will make them realise that you know that the term they're using is not appropriate.
Or you come up to them and say, are you suggesting that we shouldn't be free? Because if we're not, then that makes us a slave, and I'm not up for that.
Absolutely.
We're already writing to you in a name which is a slave name.
So I'll go on just a bit later about how we can get out and wipe away all these legal fictions so we can take complete control of them. I'll give you a story which I did, just an experiment. And this experiment came because I was watching a video from an IRS tax investigator in the States. And she happened to be honest, and she confirmed in the video that there's no law requiring anyone to pay tax. And I knew that was the case here as well. So I thought, well, I'll give it a try. So I decided not to write, I decided to phone up the HMRC. And I decided to have a witness with me when I made the phone call, and I decided also to record the phone call, okay? So I phoned up the HMRC, went through their automatic voice response until I got to the point, and it was relating to self-assessment, okay? And I had these brown envelopes come through, and they use, so they, as I said before, the title is a military reference, okay? So I got through to this guy, and he asked for the account number, so I gave him the account number. And he said, what do you want? He said, well, I said, you're misrepresenting my name, that's not me. And I didn't say the word Mr. It didn't say M-I-S-T-E-R, and I'm not a Mr. anyway. So what I said is, my name is not M-R. So they wrote the letter, yeah? I'm not M-R, that's not part of my name. And you know, you haven't written my rest of my name, my first name or my last name. I don't have a surname, I have a family name. So that's how I do it. So anyway, I was saying this to this guy, and I said, by the way, I'm not a corporation. I'm not a dead entity. I'm a living man. I've got blood through my veins. I've got arms and legs. I've got a brain, a heart. And as I say, I'm not a dead entity. I'm not a corporation, I'm a living man. So I've got a question for you. Are you a living man? Because I was talking to a man. Or are you a corporation? And I just shut up, and the power is in the silence. Right? And you could hear the clocks going, but he wasn't actually saying anything. So I thought I'd try and help him out. So I asked the same question again. And he couldn't answer it. So I answered it 7 times, all being recorded, right? And then it was clearly obvious that either he didn't know what to say or that he was worried about his seniors. So the conversation kind of like ended there. But I've got all the recordings. So if that ever went to court, which I wouldn't go to the courts anyway, I've got proof because A, I have a witness, and B, it's full recording. It's not my phone, it's a recording device. So, you know, those letters stopped. They tried starting it again about 2 years later, but I'm just ignoring them again because they're not actually addressed to me. They're legal fiction. Okay? And I did the same with council tax. I did it with the council tax as well. And so the woman started saying, well, you're not asking any questions about council tax. I said, yeah, why are you sending these letters? Because that's not me. I'm talking about you trying to charge me council tax. So yes, I am talking about council tax. She tried to prevaricate, and eventually just kind of like said, I'll put the phone down you now. But now I'm getting letters coming to me saying legal occupier. I'm not paying this council tax anyway, because it's not me. I've got no obligation, there's no tax obligation. Because it's not, you have to be in 3 jurisdictions. The law has to be, for it to be real, has to exist in land, air and water. That's what the word law means. And it doesn't because they're only in the sea law jurisdiction. It's about piracy, which is what they're about.
Is there
a benefit to going through a process and taking back ownership of your straw man and your legal fiction?
So, do you want me to talk about this now, or do you want me to talk about it
I
later on?
suggest we have a break.
I don't mind. We're going to break at 1:30.
Yeah, so we've got another 5 minutes, and then have a 15 minute break, and that takes us to 5 o'clock. So after the break we do that. If you can hold on. So do you have another written question maybe?
Well, I have, but it's slightly more convoluted. Shall I go for it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so it's about facial recognition, actually.
Oh,
Yeah. So, about 8 minutes, yeah. So facial recognition is everywhere, including in vans, in plain vans on regular streets with officers hiding and waiting to check passers by. I've seen that footage of that. You know, they're in grey vans now, these policemen, and they're just there doing this. You know, I know in the public you're allowed to film, but you know, these people are taking our images and they are storing them and potentially incorrectly matching them. That's a thing, isn't it? The incorrect matching. The question is, how can we stand up to this? How can we stand up against these big brother tactics? Surely it's unlawful and also violates data protection. So who would like to answer that?
Yeah.
Martin?
Okay. So there's a considerable body of evidence that we're currently under continuity of government and military law, not under civilian law. So nothing is quite as it seems to be. So those surveillance vans, I was at Oxford Circus in London last week or something, and they got facial recognition vans everywhere. They could be looking for bad people. We don't know. They could be looking at cover stories. So the presumption of the question is we're operating under civilian and ordinary criminal law, but actually we are doing 500 years of treason and hunting down human trafficking networks and paedophiles and all the other crap. So who knows what's really going on there? Yeah. Hold the line.
Yeah. Okay. So basically the question we just got to hold fire on that.
Yeah.
Where balaclavas are.
Surveillance goes in 2 ways.
Any other panelists like to comment on this?
Yes, so the other thing is if they're breaching the GDPR, they've obviously got to put a notice as well connected with CCTV. So I used to work on CCTV quite a long time ago, and they put a notice saying who the data data controller is. Thank you for reminding me. The data controller is. And a lot of them don't have those signs, so they all that's instantly illegal and unlawful straight away. But reality is, all these corporations don't actually exist on the land and soil jurisdiction. Alright? So they only exist in sea jurisdictions, maritime and admiralty. So none of that has anything to do with living men and living women. So everybody has been legally deemed dead. So we just need to realise we need to get out of the realm of the dead and into the realm of the living. Because we can't live underwater, can we? Right? We would drown and we would be dead. Yeah? So we need to get back onto the land and soil, so we live on soil. Yeah? In the right jurisdiction, and all that disappears.
And you're going to talk about that?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about next. Yeah.
Okay, so Charlotte, it's a good time to break. I think it's about half time. I should talk to my place.